Today, global attention is on malaria control and elimination as the World Malaria Day is observed. While there is something to celebrate in terms of reduction in the number of cases and deaths from the disease, a lot more needs to be done to finally eradicate this ancient scourge. For Nigerian, eliminating malaria means significant funding of malaria interventions, monitoring and evaluation on the part of governments at all levels, and improved environmental hygiene by the people. Our correspondent Yomi Otaigbe reports.
It takes only one bite from an infected female Anopheles mosquito to get malaria infection, which is a tropical disease. By 2006, according to the World Health Organization, 3 billion people around the world were at the risk of malaria in 109 countries and territories, with around 266 million cases annually, leading to nearly 750,000 deaths. 10 years later, figures from the World Malaria Report 2016 indicate that the rate of new malaria cases fell by 21% globally in 5 years from the year 2010. This progress has also been recorded in Nigeria, with the country's malaria prevalence rate dropping from 42% in 2010 to 27% in 2015.
Even though we've talked about diagnosing and treating people, we've tried to push a lot for preventive. So we've talked about the issues of people using the long-lasting insecticide nets. We've been able to push quite a bit, almost like 50 million of those nets into the public through routine channels. We've also been able to say that environmental sanitation is key, and it is what every single individual can do.
Although this progress is remarkable, malaria remains a major public health threat. Globally, 212 million cases were recorded in 2015, with over 400,000 deaths from the disease the same year. Children and pregnant women are still the most vulnerable when it comes to malaria.
The key message this year is to remind us all that reducing and eliminating malaria creates healthier, more equitable and prosperous societies, and promotes a broadly inclusive and multi-sectoral response. We can collectively free Nigeria of the burden of malaria.
One significant announcement as part of the 2017 World Malaria Day event is that 3 African countries, Ghana, Kenya and Malawi, will take part in the WHO coordinated patient program that will make the world's first malaria vaccine available in selected areas for children 5 to 17 months, beginning from 2018. Nigeria is missing out in this as the country did not meet the criteria for the selection, which include high coverage of long-lasting insecticidal treated nets and well-functioning malaria and immunization program, among others. Yomi Otaigbe reporting for Channels Television News.
You're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, live from Lagos. Let's quickly shift gears now, shall we, to our Abuja studios where Ivy Clem is standing by to take us through. Ivy.
Hello, Gimba. The suspended Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Babachir David Lawal, has appeared before the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo's 3-man investigative committee to defend himself against allegations of graft leveled against him by the government. The panel was set up to investigate allegations of violations of law and due process made against Mr. Lawal in the award of contracts under the Presidential Initiative of the Northeast. It is also investigating the suspended Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Ayo Oke, over the huge cash haul uncovered in the Ikoyi area of Lagos. The suspended NIA boss was yesterday grilled for over 10 hours by the panel. The meeting between the panel and Babachir Lawal today began at 1 p.m. and lasted for about 2.5 hours. The committee is expected to submit its report on Wednesday, May the 3rd, 2017. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has reaffirmed Nigeria's commitment to the International Cooperation Against Terrorism. The Vice President offered this assurance today when he received the visiting Bangladeshi Chief of Army Staff, General Abu Huk, at the presidential villa. A statement from the Vice President's office says the Bangladeshi Army Chief is in Nigeria on a working visit to improve military relations between both countries. On the urgency required to tackle the menace, Professor Osinbajo explains, and I quote, "Terrorism is a major problem and perhaps the most significant problem that the free world will face in the coming years." He adds that improved cooperation between Bangladeshi and Nigerian military would go a long way towards curbing threats posed by terrorist groups within and around borders of the two countries. Meanwhile, the Bangladeshi Army Chief has recommended effective interaction with the local populace as part of strategies to end insurgency and terrorism in Nigeria. General Abu Huk, who was addressing Course 25 participants at the National Defense College in Abuja, explained that winning the war against insurgency requires good intelligence that takes the local people into account.
It is an experience-sharing moment for participants of Course 25 at the National Defense College, as the Bangladesh Chief of Army Staff explains how the country overcame insurgency after 2 decades.
We took the local population into confidence. We interacted with each villages, each house, and we knew how many people are there in each village. The camp had, say, 2-3 villages. They knew by name how many people are there, how many male, how many female, how many children. If one person comes from outside, they immediately come to know. And good intelligence was the key of success, I would say.
The Bangladesh Army Chief further narrates how the military can gain the confidence of the people while fighting insurgency.
We never tried to overuse our forces, not to antagonize the local population. Initially, we made some mistakes. We learned from our mistakes, but we assured the local population that no one should be scared of us. We'll only go after the insurgents.
The Commandant of the National Defense College identifies lack of good governance as a major reason for insurgency.
One of the most effective ways of countering the menace is what I consider good governance, that we engender inclusiveness in government and economic growth.
The Commandant of the National Defense College admits that the challenge of insurgency and terrorism has become a hydra-headed monster, particularly in developing countries, and it is for this reason that the college invited the Chief of Army Staff of Bangladesh to share his experience.
And that's it from Abuja. Back to Gimba in Lagos.
Brilliant. Traders and residents of Idioro area in Mushin have asked the Lagos state government to save them from hoodlums who have been terrorizing the market and its environment. Following days of mayhem unleashed by the hoodlums in the area, leaving properties worth millions of naira damaged, the traders said that they would no longer allow them overrun the area.
An unusual calm in Alamutu Market, Idioro, in the Mushin area of Lagos, a day after suspected hoodlums shut down business activities, destroying properties and looting homes and shops in a spree of violence. Some of the traders alleged that the act was perpetrated by 2 factions of youths invited to the area. Their battleground is the market street.
Area boys, whenever they have anything within themselves, they use our market as battlefield. They only come here. We don't know what cause problem or crisis within them. We are here to do our own business, but our market is their battlefield. So, and our boys now resisted them. Like they cannot be using here because we are doing our own business.
I've not seen such a thing before. We can see hooligans face to face, and the police were there. We want to avoid that in order not to allow them to disturb our own markets and because most of the markets they used to bring it from far places, so they won't know what. So in order to prevent them, that was why we employed those police there and the armors and the upon now. There's no any assistance from them.
I've been here, in this area about 20 years ago. Something has not happened. But now, security is failed. The government here to help us. But now, we are in constant fear. Please help us.
Taking an on-the-spot assessment around the market environment, the sole administrator in the area, Yinka Kazim, condemned the attacks, promising that those behind it will be brought to justice.
Most of these people are living within them. So had it been they were proactive, we wouldn't get to this situation. All I will promise is, as a government, our neighborhood must be safe. I always sympathize with the people living around there, but I promise the government will get into the root of all this destruction, and we will surely get them.
2 lives were alleged to have been lost. The market for now is under lock and key, while some suspects are telling the police what they know about the violence. Security agencies should be alive to their responsibilities to forestall a recurrence in the future.
Residents of Ogulaha in Buruchu local government area of Delta State are complaining of the degradation of the environment because of gas flaring and damaged pipelines by oil companies. The community, who took to the streets along with activists from the Center for Peace and Environmental Justice, are appealing to the federal government and state governments as well to come to their rescue.
Ordinarily, living by the seashores gives a satisfying feeling, but that cannot be said for the resident of Ogulaha community, whose closeness to the Forcados River area of Delta State has been with little or no benefit. Women, men and youth, joined by activists from the Center for Peace and Environmental Justice, marched through the streets of the community, protesting the degradation of their environment as a result of human industrial activities. The residents are not only worried about the effect of the damaged pipelines, but also the pollution coming from gas exploration in their community.
Oil is a blessing to the people, but the people are not seeing the blessing. Instead, we are seeing pain.
We get sick frequently because of gas flare. So what we are now pleading to the government to do something so that health-wise, we will not, that gas flare and other things will not affect us.
The residents of the community are not alone in this fight. The Center for Peace and Environmental Justice is asking government to intervene quickly.
Government must do the needful to end gas flaring, illegal bunkering, illegal refineries, and convert all illegal refineries to modular refineries that will create employment opportunities for our teeming youth.
But the state government says it's working on a developmental plan and asks the community residents to be patient.
Our government is taking steps to bring a level of development to these communities. If you go to Ogulaha today, you will see that roads are being constructed. We agree with them that something needs to be done with a view to making the environment much more livable, not only for the purpose of the human beings that live in these creeks, but also the aquatic life. These have always been their source of livelihood.
Like the popular saying goes, the environment is our future, and the people of Ogulaha are asking the government to take a more proactive step and save their land from going extinct.
The U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Stuart Symington, is asking Nigerians to adopt best practices in conserving the country's rich natural endowment. Mr. Symington was speaking during a visit to a conservation center in the state as part of celebrations to mark the World Earth Day. He also encouraged Cross River State and Nigeria as a whole on the need to be proud and continually protect its endangered wildlife.
This is a single image of each of the national parks of Nigeria. But this is like the cover of a book. And if you could lift that cover and look inside, each one of these images of each one of your parks, not to mention your sanctuaries and your preserves, each one is like the most wonderful book you've ever seen. It's filled first with people. People who either live in those places or live next to them, and live with them, and have lived with them forever. And then it's filled with remarkable creatures. Now today, standing next to trees and near extraordinary creatures, thinking about the drill monkey and the chimpanzee and an endangered species found only in Nigeria, just behind us. I'm reminded that we often think of things that look like me when we think of nature. But I would urge you to think of the whole chain of nature that starts when the clouds gather over the mountain and ends when the waters enter the sea, and everything in between as water traces her course through the great rivers of this remarkable country.